I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can I have roll call, please?
Yep, Mr. Antoine is here. Ms. Bonnick?
Here.
Mr. Connor? Here. Dr. Demas?
Here.
Ms. Eichhorst?
Here.
Ms. Rice?
Here.
And Mr. Young is absent with notice.
Can we rise for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a motion for tonight's agenda?
So move.
Moved by Demas, supported by Connor. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Robinson, we're ready for celebrations.
Okay, we have a few tonight, and our first one, we have some guests here, so ladies, if you want to come on up to the front. I think we have 4 or 5 representatives from Starkweather and the Empty Bowls event, and we want to thank them. The Empty Bowls project has raised over $6,000 to help fight hunger in Romeo, so these ladies are here tonight to present a check on behalf of the event. So I think we have Peg Grandstaff, Joyce Kilpatrick, Joanne Karavna Haynes, am I pronouncing? All right, Karana Haynes, and is Becky Smith. Okay, and so Mrs. Bonnick, if you want to join me in accepting this. So ladies, if I understand it correctly, there was a whole bunch of these awesome bowls made and they were sold, and the proceeds from that is now going to go help some kids who need it.
These were the people in your community.
Just talk to that microphone, just so they'll catch it on TV.
Yeah.
If that's okay. I can hold this.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just so those at home can hear it.
Okay. This is the people in this community that helped do this for you guys. It was from age 5 to age 85. It's a wonderful thing. All of you who are here tonight can come and do it next spring too. It's a wonderful thing. They helped raise it. We had many wonderful, wonderful sponsors in the community, more than we've ever had in donations. It was wonderful. Everyone wanted to be sure that there were no hungry children in this community, and we thank you for being in the forefront of making sure that happened. So we wanted to present the check tonight. This was our summer's work, and we're hoping to do it again, but these were all the folks that helped make it a reality, and this wonderful team right here too. So thank you very much. How about this one in my pocket? Okay, good. Okay. I don't know if any of you guys have anything else you want to add. Do they know what Empty Bowls is? Oh, yeah, we can tell them that. Thank you. Okay, you are very, very welcome.
And welcome back.
Empty Bowl, can I tell a little about Empty Bowls? Okay.
Please do. Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. No, thank you guys, absolutely. Okay, me again. Empty Bowls, the Empty Bowls project is a wonderful thing. Oh, okay. Wonderful thing, and it was started by a Michigan art teacher. The Starkweather Society, where we are, Helen Starkweather was an art teacher in Romeo years ago. She was the only art teacher in the whole district, and I had her as a teacher, which gives you some idea connecting to the past. But a Romeo art teacher started this with the idea that hunger could be alleviated just by letting kids be part of it. And he wanted his students to do something to help out, to help make it good for other people. And he thought that was something they could do. There's no organization to it. There's no great organization lining up for it. There is only just teachers doing this. So like I said before, if you guys are interested, please contact Starkweather, watch on the website. It's a great family thing. It's wonderful for grandmas and grandkids, family groups, bowling groups, church groups, whatever you have. Please come next summer and make a bowl with us, because it's a wonderful thing, and it stays right here in this community. So I think that's it. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that's about what I want to say in my nervous way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. $6,067 going to help families and children in need in our community. So thank you again.
$5 a bowl.
We have a celebration from Romeo Theater. Romeo Theater students attended the Michigan Thespian Festival in Lansing in December. It was a weekend full of performances, workshops, competitions, and scholarships. Almost 1,500 students from across the state attended. Romeo competed in 11 categories and received a top ranking superior in 9 and the second highest ranking excellent in 2 others. There were 6 students who competed for performance scholarships, and they were offered 29 different scholarships totaling over $1 million. So Ethan Rogers, Mac McLeod, Olivia Welch, Olivia Enciso, Araceli Navarro Bergen, and Matthew Kennedy. Congratulations to these students and all who participated from the theater company. Staying on the theme of fine arts tonight, congratulations to these students who were selected to perform in the MSBOA District 16 Honors Band back in December. The group of musicians from I think 5 counties in the surrounding area put on a fantastic performance at Dakota High School. 9th and 10th grade, we had Nicholas Carpenter, Alyssa Chambers, Christina Miller, Sienna Molnar, Olivia Sellers, and Brianna Williams. And in 11th and 12th grade honors band, Zach Antonelli, Jacob Gaffke, and Joey Sarver. So congratulations to these band students. So the big part of our agenda tonight, after a long journey, is actually to present our draft strategic plan to the board for approval. Not quite yet, Dr. Lipa, just a second. But we're celebrating tonight the 29 members of the steering committee. I won't read all their names, but if they're in the house, would they raise their hand, please? That would include those of you on the board who participated. So thank you very much to our steering committee members. It was a lengthy process, but great input, and they helped guide a very successful process that we hope will end with approval of the plan tonight. So thank you to our steering committee members. Now, it is time for our presentation. So I would like to welcome Dr. Randy Lipa, who's been spending a lot of time in Romeo over the past 5 months or so. And Randy is a consultant with Michigan Leadership Institute. Back in August, a committee of board members and myself interviewed 4 potential consultants to help us with strategic planning, and MLI and Dr. Lipa were selected. And so he's been guiding the work. And he's here tonight to lead a presentation for the Board of Education and our members that are here tonight, and those that might watch the meeting in the future online. And Dr. Lipa, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Great to see all of you. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and bring the culmination of the work, even though this is really the start of the process. Now that this school district, upon board approval, having a strategic plan, of course, will have to implement the strategic plan. So the work begins. But the process has been an excellent, thank you. The process has been an excellent process. Having worked all over metropolitan Detroit and really across the state of Michigan. In fact, I'm doing work right now on the west side of the state, getting ready to do work up in the Thumb on strategic planning. There's a lot to be proud of here in the Romeo community. This is an excellent school system, and there's a lot to build from. Knowing that, though, any good organization still wants to have a strategic plan in place so it can be the very best that it can be. So let's talk a little bit about what a strategic plan is, the components, and why organizations do that, just as some introductory information to this whole process. So what is a strategic plan? It's basically the identification of who the organization is, what it does, what it values, and what it wants to accomplish over the next several years. That's what a strategic plan is. And I highlight up here the components of a strategic plan. And so let me just talk a second about each of those. And so a strategic plan has a mission statement. That really tells the organization who you are, what you want to do. And just to give you one example, we looked at examples in the steering committee, and Nordstrom's mission statement for their organization, you know, the large retailer, is to give customers the most compelling shopping experience possible. That's what they believe who they are. And so that's what you answer with a mission. A vision's a little bit different. The vision actually talks about who you want to be. It's future-oriented, it's aspirational, and it really lays out that question of, okay, this is who we are, and this is what we want to do in our mission, but where do we want to go? What do we really want to become? And just one example, LinkedIn, you guys are all familiar with the online service LinkedIn. Their vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. That's what LinkedIn says they want to be. So you've got the mission, the vision. Values are a very important component of it, because in order to live this vision and mission, you really need to identify how the organization is going to behave and what values are important to them in order to be successful. And so that commitment to each other, to these values, really helps an organization to move forward in living its mission and its vision. And the last component is goals. And the goals are the outcomes necessary in order to meet its vision. And so if you have a vision about the future of the organization, where you want to go, what you want to be, you need to set goals to get there. And so that's really the components of the strategic plan, and that's the work that we were able to accomplish. And let me just talk a second about why organizations do this. They do this across all over the spectrum. Why do organizations complete strategic plans? Number one, it provides clarity and focus to their work. It provides an excellent foundation to who they are and what they want to accomplish. It helps to set direction. We talked a lot about prioritizing and organizing the work of our organization, because in a school system, there are literally hundreds of things that you could be doing. And people are sharing ideas through the community, through staff, through students regularly in regards to, well, you know, we should be doing this. This ought to be so. Should we consider this? Is this something we ought to be doing? And so a strategic plan really helps you to take all of that type of information and say, okay, we're going to prioritize and organize that work so we can actually get work done to move us forward in living the vision that we've set for ourselves. So to start this process, let's talk about how we developed the strategic planning process. And step one was to figure out where we were as an organization, as a school district. And that was a very positive thing to go through as a consultant, because I was able to quickly identify that the school district is in a very good place. And I mean that in regards to, you know, I work with a lot of school districts and have seen a lot of school districts, and everybody has different priorities, different needs, and are at different places in regards to doing their work. When I came to Romeo, what I found is there are a lot of components already in place for us to build on in order to build a good, strong strategic plan, including a 2022 district school climate survey that provided a great deal of data in regards to the feelings of students, staff, parents, community. Also, there have been an ongoing process here with the board and the superintendent to create annual objectives that have been in place and have been worked on. While that's been going on, the administration actually has identified major areas that have been identified as possible future goals and priorities. And so, and on top of that, the district had been working on a set of core values. You remember, values is one of the components of the strategic planning process, and the district had done a lot of work on this in the last couple of years. So there was a lot of components in place for us to pull together in order to set the direction, prioritize and organize,
and set together a good strategic plan. So the pieces were in place, and really we were in a position to put together a good process. So I'll talk a little bit about how that was put together. First of all, brought me in. As Todd had mentioned, there's a process to bring in an outside consultant to help sort of the specifics of putting together a strategic plan. It's been a pleasure and an honor for me to do that. One of the other key components when we looked at developing then the strategic plan process was the superintendent made it very clear that we wanted to develop a plan where it was one that had been vetted and gotten feedback from and been participated with the stakeholders of this school system. And so that was a very important component in putting this together. And so the way that we began to figure out how we were going to do a mission, vision, values, and set the goals was to put together a steering committee. Steering committee was made of stakeholders throughout the organization, including administrators, teachers, support staff, board members, parents, and community members. And so that group had the mission then of doing the mission statement, the vision statement, setting the values and the goals of the organization. And I would highlight that while every component of the community was involved in this, really they were clear that this was not their perspective, their ideas in regards to what these components should be, but it would be taking all of this feedback, all of this data that was available, and actually going out and soliciting more feedback and more data from community members, staff, students, parents, in order to build the plan. And so they were the facilitators, I would describe, that helped us to put this plan together. And so you know what the components of the strategic plan are. You know now the process that we set up to do it. Let me talk about the specifics of how we got it done. Going back to August, with the board approving the consultant to begin the work, and then we started to develop the process, as I had mentioned, putting together the steering committee. September, of course, is the start of school, and so that was really a planning month for us as it related to the strategic planning. And we really were able to put all the components together, so then in October, we were ready to hit the ground running with our first steering committee meeting. And at the first steering committee meeting, we reviewed the components of the strategic plan, just like we did today, understood those components, and then actually started the work on the mission and the vision statements and the values. Those three first components of the strategic plan. And so that work began with that first steering committee, and we actually had subcommittees doing work after our committee meetings, and they continued that work on the mission and the vision statements for the school system. We looked at mission and vision statements from organizations that were school systems. We looked at businesses and their mission and vision statements. Actually looked at the Romeo mission statement from, I think it was 2011, right, Todd? Mm-hmm. Went back, pulled that back out, and that was our basis to start to build that mission and vision for our organization, who we are, what we want to become. So that was the work in October. And then at the same point in time, this values component that we talked about, that there had been quite a bit of work done, we actually went back to the schools and spent time in our schools with our staff talking about the values, because it had been a couple of years, and since COVID, which it's been a big crazy time in schools, things have changed in school systems across the country, and so they took the opportunity to say, let's take another look at these values, and went out and got feedback from the schools during that October period of time. And we also, at that point in time, had our first conversation with the board, where I came to the Board of Education and we talked about these components, where we were and where we were going. Lastly, then in October, we had our second steering committee meeting. And now that we were starting to get that vision and mission statement together, we started to look at what potential goals we would want to set in order to live the vision of the organization. All right, we know we had that vision, that picture of where we're going. Well, how are we going to get there? Let's start building ideas for goals. And that started with the second committee meeting in October. Went into November, more subcommittee work, and then the focus areas and the goals for these components that were going to be very, very important. And then we actually said, okay, well, now we've got some draft ideas for the goals, these focus areas and goals that are going to sort of give us the direction of what we want to work on first to live our vision. In order to do that, we then said, okay, now we're going to go out and get some additional feedback from the community, from our staff, from our students in regards to building these goals. And this was really important, not just to get their feedback on the types of things that we're talking about, but the steering committee, even though it was representative, wanted to make sure we weren't missing something. That there wasn't something out there that, oh my gosh, so glad we talked to those group of kids, so glad we met with that group of parents, because we picked up something that we missed. And so that was the component that really helped us out to finalize the goals as we were going through it. 15 focus groups that we held, over 187 participants. And then a survey went out with the same exact questions that we asked in the focus groups. Focus groups are always great because you get a little more meaty detail in regards to what people are thinking about. But the survey data was very helpful also. And we had 1,400 people that filled out the survey data and gave us feedback on the draft goals that we had put together. So December, that was in November. December comes, we start to look at that data, and the committee met for a fourth time, looked at the final drafts of the mission and vision statement, finalized its work on the values, and then started to rework the goals based on this feedback that came from the 1,400 surveys and the 187 people that we talked to in these 15 focus groups. That happened in December. It was really starting to come together. January came, more subcommittee work to work on the final wording for the goals. And then the committee met one last time in January. They couldn't leave the meeting until we had a good draft for the Board of Education, so they were very motivated, and we got it done. And I just want to take a second to take my hats off to the committee who put this together. They were just not only a remarkable group to work with, but the energy in the room with them every time we met was something that I just noticed. I mean, they were really vested in regards to putting together their best thoughts on behalf of the school system. And so the committee that came together just did a remarkable job, and they were just a pleasure to work with. And so here we are. Summary, strategic plan was created for the Romeo district based on a strong foundation of data and information that was there to develop the plan, and significant involvement from stakeholders across the district in regards to finalizing the plan. And so now this plan can help us move forward, and we're at the stage where we're going to invite up members of the committee to actually share the components of the plan. We're going to start with the mission statement. And we'll invite up Melissa Ahrens, who's the 9th grade academy principal, who you all know. You probably did not know that Melissa went to the same elementary school that I went to in Saginaw, Michigan. What are the chances?
In high school and lived in the same neighborhood.
Yes. So I've made a couple quick phone calls, and I have some dirt if you want to, but we won't do that at this meeting. We'll do that later. So Melissa.
Thank you. Good evening. So I had the pleasure of helping develop the mission statement. So I'm going to read it really quick, and I know it's in front of you, but embracing our community while engaging and educating and empowering students to inspire the future. Remember what Randy said, that this statement should represent who we are and what we do and how our organization functions. We're pretty proud of this statement. As a group, we were charged with developing this. We looked at multiple sources. We looked at the 2011 mission statement that we had. We looked at other organizations, whether it was private or public schools. And then we gathered feedback from the other committee members on the steering. And this is what we came up with. Through multiple revisions and graphics, as you can see, we kind of branded this statement a little bit. There is a statement out there that uses OUR for those that when we have to present it in a real formal manner. But we're pretty proud of this. When you read this statement, it's important to remember, and I think this is the key when we were developing this, that community remains the focus. Whether it's the community of our school, this school, the whole district, or the community as a whole. So we thought that we really captured that, and that students are always our focus. And so if you see, we're always engaging, educating, and empowering them. So that's the mission statement. So J.P. Rhea, who's a great friend and also a parent, is going to talk about vision. 2001.
Yeah, that's getting long now. Let's not bring up those dates anymore. Howdy, friends. No, grew up literally a mile and a half mile from here, actually. John Paul Rea, here, I guess wearing a few hats, but I think it's interesting. When Todd reached out to me for this, he's like, JP, we'd like you to be part of the strategic planning process. And I was like, I'm flattered. And my assumption was it's because I work for a guy that works for Macomb County. But Todd's like, no, we want you to be a parent rep. And I was like, Todd, do you know how many parents are in Romeo Community Schools? I was like, I think you could find some more equipped individuals. But thankfully, he gave me an opportunity to do that. And I had the esteemed pleasure of working with not only so many inspiring educators and administrators that are in this room, but more importantly, a lot of those community advocates. And as Randy laid out a little bit earlier, when we talk about our vision statement, it really is about aspiration. It's what we want to become, what we want to be when we grow up. And ultimately, how can we set up some of these benchmarks to accomplish that? So as you can see here, we want to forge pathways through academic exploration that are guided by the passions of our students, dynamic learning environments, and invested community advocates. And it's interesting because when you break this down, whether you are a father of a child that is in elementary school or whether you have children that are in high school, the bits, the pieces, the connect points that are so overarching here that it really brings in, as Melissa kind of laid out, the entire community. So with the passions of our students, when you have a 7-year-old like I do that just wants to talk about leader and me all the time and sharpening the saw, that's a passion you want to ignite, and that's what Miss Wycheck is doing in Indian Hills. When you talk about dynamic learning environments, when you invest in a high school the way that our community has, to use that as a transformational point in how we're going to educate the next generation of students, that's something you want to build off of. And the other thing when I put on my professional hat is the amount of community advocates that we see just breaking down the door to not only provide, an olive branch to a student that wants to, figure out what they want to be when they grow up, or, connect into the academies program. These are things that not only are putting forth a bold vision of what this district can become, but how we can all be a part of that. So very much appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this process. And as a parent, very much want to applaud not only your support as a Board of Education, but providing parents and also advocates throughout the community a forum to be engaged in this. So Randy, I think I'm going to throw it back to you.
Great. And next, we're going to have Dr. Robertson talk about the core values.
So out of all the elements of this strategic plan, I'm probably most passionate about an organization having a set of core values. And I enjoyed our steering committee because I was telling Dr. Lipa that I will bet that the most energy in the room comes when we discuss values, and it did, again. And so we had great conversation within the steering committee about our previous set of core values, and it was clear that the group felt we should go out and seek input from our staff again, because these were 2018, 2019 values, and things were different. So we did that. We went out. We ended up getting input from over 480 of our employees. We reset our core values, and we ended up with the 5 that you see listed there on the screen. We then turned those over to a graphic artist because we like to have these displayed in our schools and posters and things like that. So you'll see the final draft of our updated values graphic that is part of our strategic plan. That includes respect, teamwork, fun, balance, and integrity. And overall, integrity was the highest rated value. So we're representing that as the foundation of that. And in the middle there, you see this emphasis of community that I think the conversations that we had, the feedback that we received in the climate survey, an overwhelming majority of our stakeholders value the community and want the community to be who they are and support our schools and each other. So that's our values. Focus areas and goals. We'll start with focus area number 1, teaching and learning. And we have Mrs. McFarland and Mr. Essien, the principal from Hevel Elementary, here to talk a little bit about the goals and how we plan to measure those.
Sure. So we had the task of working with a smaller team to try to identify some goal areas under the umbrella of teaching and learning. So you can imagine that was pretty general and pretty broad, but using all of the data that we had from the survey data and the other work that we've been doing, we landed on these. I'm going to talk about the first 2. As you know, we have our academies at Romeo High School, and some of you were actually part of the original master planning process, and that was submitted and completed, I believe, in 2017. So right, Mr. Antoine? Wow. We actually are in process as a small team right now, revisiting that to see which action steps we've actually completed, which ones really are no longer relevant. The world of work has changed for some of our partners. So what can we eliminate or think we can eliminate? And then what are some maybe things that we added? We became very adept and creative at adding some different action steps, which may become part of Master Planning 2.0. The next one I'm really excited about is develop new learning opportunities in our elementary and middle school to align with the academies at Romeo High School. So some of you are aware, other Ford NGL communities are making this transformation at their elementary and middle school levels. So we've been tapping their shoulders and getting some input, and I think everyone's ready to see what that may look like and engaging our kids in the community more frequently than they are currently at the elementary and middle school levels. And Mr. Essien?
So I get the pleasure of talking about our next two. The first one being expand student opportunities in a variety of areas, including fine arts, after-school clubs, STEM programs, service organizations, academic support, and others. The whole goal behind this is to look at it from a K-12 perspective and what do we currently offer? What differences do we have, like, having 5 elementary schools? What are some of the different programs that each of us have that we may not even know about? So then we can have this all on the table, research, see what we have, and kind of be able to bring more of those to the forefront and get more opportunities for students. The next one is enhance a district-wide system of tiered supports for staff to use in supporting and meeting students' needs. For a lot of us in the educational world, we call this our MTSS system or our multi-tiered student supports. We have systems in all of our buildings, and all of our schools are doing some sort of this. This is a way of organizing it into one and making it more of a holistic approach to make sure that no matter where our kids are going or where our teachers are traveling, we all have the same system in place to be able to best support the needs of our students.
And to measure this?
Yay. I love data. So really the first one is to really revisit that, and Mr. Oswald and the high school team have really been keeping track on our data dashboard since the beginning of the transformation with that first Trailblazer group. And we are having our Ford NGL Academies at Romeo High School annual retreat in March, where our stakeholders will be invited to revisit our master plan and give us some feedback on if we're hitting the marks or if we have some work to do with 2.0. The new opportunities for PK through 8 is we'll have a plan. We'll begin working on that and really target our nonprofits and community-based organizations at those levels. And as Mr. Essien had shared, we really need to know what our opportunities are right now at our different buildings. And then from there, we will have our baseline data that we can then expand and offer new opportunities. And the last one is really having that alignment throughout the district to ensure consistency and a singular place to collect that information on the interventions that we're utilizing for our students. I think I hit it.
Thank you. The second focus area is safety and wellness. So we have 3 members of the steering committee here to share the deep work on safety and wellness.
Howdy, friends. I'm back for round 2. I got Melissa and Mary to back me up on this one. So again, wearing my parental hat, it was a fascinating conversation when we got to safety and wellness and really understanding the critical elements that come into creating learning environments that can adapt to the many challenges that we face in this arena. I think districts not only across the county, the region, state, and nation are continuing to explore ways to not only invest in facilities, programs, and resources that will ensure that our learning environments are safe on all fronts. There are so many perspectives on this topic, and when we broke out into our parental group, it was fascinating to see the emotion in this, because whether it's going through the, just the mindset of dropping your children off and ensuring that if they need a kind voice or are working through something, that there are advocates not only in their classrooms, but in their buildings, but district-wide, that those resources are not only at their disposal, but there's a community there that embraces them. And I can proudly say that throughout this process, whether it's through the administration or building leaders, undoubtedly this district is focused and in tune to the parental priorities around safety. And I think that is not only something that is a warm, fuzzy feeling on the inside, but it is backed up by practices that have already taken hold in every single building in here and resources that are already being deployed through credible partners throughout the county and the state. And I think that's something the district to be applauded for. When we look at this, the first step in this becomes a simplistic aspirational statement that we want to improve students and staff feeling safe in our schools. And when you throw something out that simplistic, you're kind of saying, well, don't we already do that? We do, but it's who else can we bring into this conversation? How do we begin to do this? By coordinating with local law enforcement officials, expanding the conversation and the resources that we get from the Macomb County Sheriff's Office, bringing in the perspectives of local PD up in the village of Romeo, understanding how we can scale those resources to bring in additional, expertise in there when we want to improve our safety practices every single day. I think that testament is not only here from the administration, but now having these building blocks in the strategic plan and being able to work with the Board of Education, we can ensure that the community feels that way as we drop our kids off to school every single day.
The next goal we have for the safety and wellness is to improve students and staff feeling connected at school. As a principal at a school, I'm pretty passionate about this, because if staff and or students don't feel connected, they don't perform well, whether it's in their job, in the classroom, or whether it's on a test or it's a homework assignment. So as a committee, we really wanted to tackle this one, and it was very clear in the data that students feel comfortable in an environment where they're connected and have things to do. So some of the things that we want to work on are some peer-to-peer opportunities. We want to grow those, and then grow some after-school activities or during the day. Like take that data from the students, and just not sports. What are some of our kids want to do that maybe aren't involved in athletics, and start developing opportunities for them to feel connected. So this one we were pretty passionate about as a committee.
Hi, everyone. Our third goal is to create a continuum of district-wide wellness initiatives that empower our staff and our students. Our key word in this goal is that continuum. So we do not want a one-size-fits-all when it comes to safety and wellness. We want to be able to have options that fit every student's need and every family. Within those action steps, we would like to complete our district wellness plan that focuses on nutrition, mental health, physical fitness, and work with our committee members made up on that wellness committee with various stakeholders, with parents, community members, students, and staff input. We would also like to create on-demand digital wellness resources for parents, students, and staff to access when needed at any time the resources that they're looking for. Some of the measurement of safety and wellness goals will happen with various data points such as our perception survey, climate survey, quantitative data for safety drills and practices, our attendance data, our discipline records, after-school extracurricular activities, wellness opportunities, and other measurements.
Thank you. And last but not least, Focus Area 3, Community of Collaboration, Mr. Murray and Mrs. Hassey.
Good evening, Romeo Board and the community. Mr. Murray and I are very excited to share with you the Community of Collaboration, Focus Goal Area number 3. And as its name exists, it is truly about that partnership with all stakeholders. Students, of course, are the underpinning, parents, and staff. And so when you look at our 4 goal areas, the first one being establish consistent structures to promote student voice, we are really looking to see, are students invested, and what do those structures look like? A great example of that would be our middle school and high school advisory periods, so that students have that opportunity for voice. And of course, we're looking to continue to grow that at the elementary level and so forth. The second area is increase the number of community partnerships to support our schools. And we are well on our way with our high school, and we're looking how can we do that all the way through our youngest learners. So Croswell up through the elementary schools and middle schools to continue to make sure we have the right people and the right folks in our community to support our learners.
Thank you. So when you look at goal 3, it's really about stronger engaged relationships with parents. Excuse me. There's interest in both sides, both the school side and the family side in this. And really what we're looking to do moving forward is find out more from moms and dads about what we can do to support, further engagement in the school setting and in education, and then take advantage of that survey data to provide some sort of like parent university format. So when you think, what does that look like? It looks like maybe some in-person opportunities to learn, virtual and also recorded sessions. And so it's about us seeking to understand before being understood related to engagement with families. And then goal 4, also an important piece related to goal 3 is about communication. We've heard loud and clear that the district needs to work on being a little more cohesive in our approach to communication, K-12, not just communication from building, but also communication from the district. So we'll be looking to learn more about how we can, potentially create more of a one-stop shop for information that moms and dads need to find. And then goal 4 is to enhance opportunities for staff collaboration. We have a lot of collaboration going on currently, but most of it occurs within buildings. And so really what we're looking for is to establish some procedures and protocols related to vertical collaboration and then also horizontal when you think of our 5 elementary schools. So plenty of work to be done. And how will we measure all of this, right? $1 million question. Really, it's taking a qualitative and quantitative approach. And so for each of these goals, we currently have initiatives in place, but we don't know is to the extent of what we're doing is working. And so we really have to make that determination and then also find out how we could do better. And once we have new initiatives in place, also, again, make determinations about whether those things are working as well.
Thank you.
So that comes together in what the steering committee has referred to as the placemat plan. So whenever you develop a strategic plan, we know that there's a variety of depth behind it, but we're still working through the final edits to this, and we've represented our mission, vision, and values in addition to the focus areas and goals, and then we've decided on representing, also including some of our educational partners who are helping us in our work at different levels in different buildings. That is certainly not an exhaustive list, but these are some current educational partners, whether they be state organizations or national organizations. Oakland University and our partnership with the School of Education and Human Services. We felt it was good to represent those on our one-page plan, and I'll turn it back over to Dr. Lipa.
So there it is on one page. You do not want a strategic plan to be a binder and have people somehow responsible to understand 50 pages of a strategic plan. But here it is, right there, simple, laid out, clear, our mission, our vision. Here's what we value, and here's what we're going to try to get done to live that vision statement that is up on the podium there. And so I would just highlight a couple of things. As the group did today, as the work begins, incremental work towards the goals with measurements will be important, and those will be the next steps. Along with them working within the schools to set up action plans to say, here are the types of things that we're going to do in order to move us towards improving on those measurements so then we're meeting our goals. And so that's what's going to be coming up. And I think the group is just ready to go. I think it's an excellent final project or product. And the only other thing I would add is some people think that, well, the goals listed in the strategic plan will be the only thing the school district's doing in the next, 3 to 5 years. No. For example, you don't see anything up there about any specific operational aspects of the school system, right? That doesn't mean the operations are going to take a couple years off and they're not going to fix parking lots and work on boilers, right? They're going to have their work to do, and they're going to be prioritizing their work within their organization. The thing I would highlight that would help maybe a little bit with that is there'll be some things that they will and won't do. But one thing, the things that we know the district will be doing over the next several years is working on the goals within the mission and the vision that's been outlined. So we know that that will be happening, and that's what that can provide you. So it's been a great pleasure to be here and to work through this process with your excellent group of leadership staff here and a remarkable community. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions?
I do have a question. We talked about measuring the initiatives. I was just wondering, you do have certain things in place already to enhance Positive View, advisory, Leader in Me. What are the current qualitative and quantitative metrics to justify, does it work? Are students better for it, and, you know, offset the cost as well?
Yeah, so I'll give one example. And so, for example, Leader in Me, as you described, that's actually an action plan, right? That's something that the district's doing to improve how people feel as it relates to being in school. That commitment and positive feelings of school are improved by that. And so the measurements, just one example would be that redoing the survey data to see if we see growth in the survey data in regards to how kids are feeling at school. That would be one example of how you would measure the improvement in that particular goal area. And
is
so
it a
what will
direct-
happen, just to talk about it a little bit broader, what will happen then is in each of these goal areas, there will be measurements that will be identified as the one example that I provided. And that will be done, and then the action plans will occur. So actions will occur, they'll measure, and then we'll see if that's moving us towards the goal.
So your surveys would directly reflect that specific program, or is it a general survey?
No, really what you're looking at, because remember what the goal says, and that is that students are feeling connected to school and they're feeling safe at school. So you want the questions to be built around, do they feel connected or are they safe? And then the work underneath that that's happening, those action plans are, for example, where we're going to do a Leader in Me school. If we're doing a Leader in Me school, kids should feel more connected to school, they should feel more safe. And so when we send that survey out again, we have the students do the survey again, we hopefully will see growth in regards to them being safe at school and connected to school.
So I wonder, the schools that don't have the Leader in Me program, are their survey results comparable to the schools that do have it?
I think the other thing that will occur is based on the program that you're referring to, many of them are tracking their own survey results. So for example, Positive View is regularly gathering
That was the next one I was
data,
gonna
not just from Romeo kids, but all the districts they're working in, and that guides, you know, what the next wave of their programming is. So when a organization or a program we're using has its own and their own internal survey, we would naturally use the feedback specific to our district to decide whether we're going to continue working with them or not.
Do we have access to that data? We do. Oh, wonderful.
I was also going to say, one of the, and I forget which area Mr. Essien spoke on, it's also where we want to be more consistent. So if a third grader is getting Leader in Me and goes to third grade somewhere else,
Right.
if that is what we think is a good program and does blah, 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 and the data shows it, then we should be consistent. So they're going to be looking at that. Now, populations can dictate different things, and there might be other ways of doing it, but, you know, the whole idea being giving all kids in Romeo
All the same.
similar experiences is really important.
How often do we evaluate these programs?
We, not they, often.
So our approach will be annually. And one of the things that we weren't sure exactly how this would time out, but we think it's going to be a benefit is we'll actually be tracking our strategic plan on the calendar year. So we won't be in the middle of trying to figure things out as we begin a school year or end a school year. It'd be at this time of year where we would be pulling data, and then it's our intent that at that March workshop with the board every year, we would report back on our progress for the previous year and any changes to action planning that we have for the next year.
Okay.
Other questions?
No, I just want to comment. I think it's great that I've always kind of bragged on Romeo that we involve all stakeholders, because I've worked in other districts and familiar that not everyone does that. So I commend you for that and stressing that. And then the only other thing, I know this is kind of like a draft, and it will be, looked at more at the March workshops, looking forward to that. But on the safety and wellness, I understand the word feeling. I just want to make sure that, we're not just having kids feel safe, but that they actually are safe. So hopefully that's something that, comes into the conversation there.
That actually came up in one of the focus group meetings.
Bet you did.
That actual comment, yeah. So you're right on.
So some next steps that happen upon approval, hopefully tonight, we will bring the plan back and a lot of feedback from the steering committee to the district leadership team. We will sort ourselves into 3 focus area teams. Of course, those members that were a part of the steering committee will have vested knowledge and lead the discussion, but it's our charge over the next 4 to 6 weeks to actually create some year 1 action plans. So we can share those with the board. There are some things already underway, and so those will be easy to document and continue. But there'll also be some strategies and activities that we have to lift up and begin to put in place. So that's our job now, to take back this plan, this overall plan, and create the action for year 1. And then review that annually. And we envision at some point in time down the line, some goals will have been met, and at some point in time, it will be time to revisit the strategic plan and reset it. But we think we have a solid 3 years worth of work here, and maybe longer, but our goal is to just dig into year 1 and keep the board informed on what that is.
I think on behalf of the board, and just want to say thank you to Dr. Lipa, to the whole group. I'm sure Gus can say this too, when you've been around and served on, I think both of us sat on the strategic planning in 2011 as well. It was truly fun to be in that room. There was that word feeling doesn't just pop up. I mean, there was a lot of conversation, a lot of ribbing, a lot of tossing words back around, and what did it really mean? What should it mean? It was truly an energizing room. You just really get excited. I get excited whenever there's a nice roadmap. For us as a board, what's going to be really good is when you're faced with something that comes, outside of the leadership or of the strategic plan, you can kind of say, good idea, parent or community or whatnot, but let's see how it fits in. Like it helps us to formulate our work as well and help support the school moving forward. Because we all know when you just there's a lot of great ideas in the world, but you can't do all of them and be successful at all of them. So our world as board members is going to be looking at those action plans and like you say, digging into the data and asking those tough questions, but also when other things come up to say, how does that fit in, really questioning that. So thank you for everybody who came tonight, and I know we said we'll let you leave, so if you want to, you can.
So we are working on how we'll present this to staff and parents, and that will be some opportunities in person and then also some that would be on demand. And we look forward to the opportunity to, get back with the board on this topic specifically at the March workshop. I want to thank Randy because, I knew Randy. Randy was the Wayne County ISD superintendent, and prior to that, the Livonia Public Schools superintendent. So he's got a lot of institutional knowledge, but he came to Romeo as an active learner, and he really guided our process. And I think anyone on the steering committee would tell you, Randy did way more listening than talking, but helped us process our thoughts. And at those times where we needed a little bit more facilitation than others, he stepped in and helped that. So we think Randy's a bulldog for life now because he spent enough time with us, and we have a small gift of appreciation for him. So Randy, thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely. I was the only one not read at the first meeting. I'm like, what? Well, I learned quickly.
All right, we'll move on with the meeting.
All right, can I have a motion for consent action? Moved by Demus, supported by Mr. Connor. These are general fund bills, financial reports, wire transfer, purchasing card expenditures, and the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next are informational updates.
So I had no communications thus far in January. Mrs. Bonick, I don't know if you have any to share. We had 2 committee meetings. So the facility subcommittee met last week.
Yes, Mr. Antoine's going to give that report.
Yep, we met last week. Myself, Anita Bonick, and Chris Young were part of that meeting, as well as our architects and our construction managers and some of our central office staff. We talked about technology project update, meaning the two-way radio project that we awarded that contract, and it's currently with our legal counsel, working with the municipalities and whatnot to get that project going. Talked about replacing all of the network switches in all the buildings and using some government or some federal E-rate funds to help with the cost of that, or to support the cost of it, I should say. And the district is currently evaluating interactive boards, interactive whiteboards. They have a couple vendors' products out in there that teachers are using now to get some feedback from them on a purchase that we'll be making in a later date. The transportation building is moving along on schedule, is what we learned. That's at our bus lot. And we continue, or the new construction projects, Hamilton Parsons, Indian Hills, from Croswell, all those projects are moving forward. We reviewed the bid documents from the Croswell bid, and that's part of our resolution this evening. And the bids came in favorably for those, so which was a nice thing that we were able to take advantage of. We talked about the renovation of the Romeo Middle School cafeteria and the progress that that's making, and just lots of good stuff going on. That's all I can say. Is that sinking fund was another part, or how we plan on spending that money, and how the control systems for monitoring and turning on the heat in the buildings, how that project's going. Pool improvements, the sound, fixing the sound, echoing in that room seems to have been fixed and doing what it is supposed to do. So that was a good report. We got a report from Mr. Storm on other things as well as other items that he's been working on. So that's what I want to say.
Questions from facilities? All right. Dr. Demas, Mrs. Bonick, anything else from the Strategic Planning Subcommittee? I think that committee is virtually closed now.
Anything you want to say, Dr. Demas?
No, I just want to say that, as everyone else has, how proud I am to have been a part of it, but more importantly, that the district is going through this process. I participated. I know Anita did 2 years back, and of course we've been on delay because of COVID and other reasons. But how much more important can something be than a strategic plan that is going to move the district forward over the next few years, and a plan that is fluid and continues to be improved. And the whole idea is that the emphasis here should be on the word strategic. And the plan is for continuous improvement for everyone concerned. And I think that's so vital. And I'm just so pleased that we're at this point. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone that participated. It was a wonderful experience, a lot of collaboration, a lot of discussion, and I'm just pleased that we're at this point.
All right. Superintendent's report. Couple things from academic services.
righty, just a few updates for you tonight. Winter testing concluded on Friday. That's our usual battery of NWEA, DRA, and early lit skills, at least at the elementary level. And so in short order, our teachers, administrators, coaches, and literacy specialists be working on revisiting interventions that have happened, evaluating their effectiveness for students, and then developing new plans to continue to move them forward. We've got an awesome professional learning day coming up on February 1st. From an elementary perspective, we'll be focusing in on basic facts, which is like the unsolvable mystery. As long as I've been in education, it always seems to pop up. So we're going to take a different approach to it. I'll be looking at learning more about the structured literacy approach, and then also managing some of the big changes that we have coming at the elementary level, which are exciting.
So I'll talk a little bit about professional learning for our middle school on February 1st. We have our second session with our AMLE consultant, Mrs. Katie Powell. And the staff actually took an assessment that AMLE offers middle schools. So some of the findings from that staff survey of middle school teachers, she will be lifting up for those topics on February 1st. Our high school teams will be engaged in some business partner engagement. They started this week, actually. Rich Bojo, our academy coach, reached out to some of our business partners, and we have teams of teachers that are going to go out in the morning to connect with those business partners, and they actually are co-creating the experience. So I think today Mr. Oswald told me there were 2 or 3 meetings where the business partners came in to that SLC, whether it be the 10th or 11th or 12th grade team, to kind of talk a little bit about, here's who we are as the teachers, tell us about your business, and here's kind of what we're looking to see. And then in the afternoon, all 9 of those teams will come back to the high school commons area, and as Mr. Oswald has shared with them, dip your toe into it. So think about connecting to the profile of a graduate, or is there some project-based learning you can do with a partner or yourself? So I'm excited about that. It's a pretty cool day. And then early childhood will have their own professional learning, as will that's early childhood, sorry, as will special ed. Just wanted to give you an update. This week, our team will be meeting around the book reviews. So we will obviously communicate with the board the outcome. I'm not sure we'll get through all the number of books that are up for review, so we may have to make some decisions and then extend it for another session to get through all of those. That's all I have.
Okay. Questions? All right, thank you. Let's talk construction. Mr. Antoine stole a little of your thunder, Mr. Stone, Mr. Bollinger. But a couple updates from construction.
Thank you. Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you this evening. Coming to the Croswell project that we reviewed last week, just to remind everybody, or to let everybody know, we did receive 56 bids over 12 different bid categories, in which 2 of those bids were not utilized. So there's 2 categories that we are actually going to the next bidder from the low bidder, and that was due to their documents being incomplete and unusable. So therefore, just wanted to report that. And just a quick reminder that the Croswell project really will cover 2 summers and all the time in between, not only for the addition, but also phased renovations in coordination with the building staff to make sure that we can move our way through the building and get the project wrapped up. So those documents are within your packet. Moving on to the transportation building update, there was a little bit of update given, but to be a little more specific, on the exterior side of the building, the metal wall panels are being installed. They're currently working in the bus wash area. And then we just, last week, we were able to get those, the bus hoist cassettes, what we refer to as the cassettes, installed, and the floors have now been placed. So we have all interior slabs in, and we are working on interior finishes, painting, getting drywall finished so that we can continue on with those interior finishes throughout the building. Okay. Mr. Storn.
Good evening. So if you recall, when we originally started the project, the 2021 bond projects, it was broken into groups, basically on guidance from French and Associates and Barton Mallow, the number of projects that can be managed efficiently and effectively. So Group 2 projects will begin designing in February. When I say we, it'll be French and Associates and Barton Mallow, and our team will meet regularly to have discussions with them. The projects that will include the middle school robotics building, the Washington classroom addition, Amanda Moore's classroom addition, district-wide plumbing improvements, which is touchless fixtures and bottle fillers, administration building remodeling, and site improvements for the baseball and softball varsity fields. So those will be the projects that you'll see, and it'll be very similar to this last year. Well, we'll plan throughout the winter and spring and into the summer, and then begin the bidding process and fall on into next winter for projects to begin next winter and the following summer. So, any questions on the plan that's laid out? Okay.
A couple things from school safety. We did hear back from the Michigan State Police and MDE. We were not awarded the SRO grant. So if you remember in the budget last year in June, they did set some money aside. Typically, when you apply for an MSP grant and you don't get it, they don't give you any feedback, and they kind of tell you all along, don't call us, we'll call you. I was thankful to receive a communication, and basically the applications doubled the allocated amount of money. And they focused on smaller districts, smaller outstate districts, and districts that didn't have any SRO program underway. So we're not dependent on that money. We have already made arrangements and budgeted for our 2 resource officers. We were just looking forward to maybe offsetting a little bit of Officer Bauer's expense for us and the municipalities. But we'll move forward. We'll see. I would anticipate the possibility of additional funds being allocated in next year's budget, and if we're eligible to apply, we will. The two-way radio project, we're under a contract review with our vendor, our contractor, cleaning some things up there with help of district legal counsel, and we actually finalized today the draft of our cooperative agreement with Bruce Township. So I sent that over to Supervisor Philbrook, and they'll take a look at it. Hopefully we can get that wrapped up. Our biggest concern here is some of the materials have 6 to 8 month lead time. So we just want to get in the queue and know that we're moving forward with completing this project. And then finally, secure education consultants. We had them come in with a separate set of funding that was in this year's state budget to do risk assessments on all of our facilities. We received the report from them. Our district safety team will meet with them a week from Friday. We have an hour meeting to go through the plan, and then working to have Jason Russell, the president of SEC, come to the February board meeting to present to the board and community on the results of those risk assessments. So we'll get you some information in the next month or so on the outcomes of those. All right, that's all I have.
I didn't receive any public comment. Nope. Okay. Moving on, can I have a motion for Employee Services Resolution 9, which is the personnel update? Moved by Dr. Demas.
Support.
Support by Ms. Sykorst. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for Superintendent Resolution Number 10, which is the 2023 RCS Strategic Plan?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Rice, Mr. Connor. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is Business Services Resolution Number 11, which is our Schools of Choice.
So moved.
Moved by Rice.
Support.
Support by Demas. This is our annual decision on how we're handling schools of choice. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is Facilities Resolution Number 12, which is super exciting. Croswell Contract Award, all the bids that were included in your board packet.
Motion.
Moved by Antoine, supported by Connor. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to board discussion for the good of the district. Anybody have anything they'd like to share?
I was wondering, Dr. Robinson, I noticed that Chippewa Valley Schools, they're moving in a direction of hiring a kind of a mental health firm to complement or supplement the staff that's already involved in dealing with student emotional issues. I'm wondering if we've given any thought to that, or I think the company was Reliance or something like that they're dealing with. I'm sure you've had those discussions with these people, so.
So the strategic plan has increasing community partnerships, and that will include the possibility of us aligning with some that we already have some relationship to, and others in that regard. So we have a few real entry-level partnerships with some help. One of the things that's of concern to all districts is just the limited amount of resources for any of these agencies to hire qualified, certified mental health professionals. So we're open to help. We've got some great counselors and social workers and psychologists, but they can only do so much. So we're looking to expand in that area.
Thank you.
I guess I would just like to say, I think it's really important for people in the audience to know with our two new board members, just since the last time we've met and since they've taken their oath of office, they've attended 4 outside meetings just learning and researching and spending time with Dr. Robinson and I. So while it is a volunteer position, it is something that, requires a lot of time and attention, and both of them have jumped in, and, the bids alone on Croswell, I mean, that's a huge project and something if you're not used to looking at, they took the time to study it, and Barton Mello came in and helped go over it as well. So just we're really doing our best to make sure everybody gets onboarded at all levels, right? New staff, new teachers, but also at the board levels. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that, and I just want people to know it looks really easy coming to a meeting and being here for an hour and 15 minutes, but there's a lot of time and energy that goes in prior to that isn't always seen by the naked eye. And maybe for many, many years was taken for granted that, people just sat up here and made decisions without really studying and spending a lot of time. So I think it was a good time to we forget, as people who've done it for a long time, how much work it was for us in the beginning, and still is, but it's part of our fabric, and it's new to yours, and your family probably notices it. So appreciate that. I don't see any other public comment. All right, seeing none. Was there anybody else that had anything else to say?
I just want to add thank you to everybody for making me feel welcome and helping with those onboarding things. So it's been appreciative of your time. So thank you.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Move for your turn.
Mr. Connor, do I have a support?
Support.
It's the best one to support, just so you know. All right.
Who supported it?
Support Mrs. Rice. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.